Hi, welcome back. In this video, we will talk about the socket programming. As we know that we have thousands of computers on our network, and there are several processes or several software running in the different computers. So to enable software resizing different computers on the network to talk with each other, our computer system use the concept of socket to make the connection between them. So the socket actually is made up of two parts. The first part is the IP address, and the second part is the port number. The IP address is used to identify the computers. For example, in this image, this IP address will help us to locate this server. And this IP will help us to identify our client server. The second part is the port. The port number. The port number is used to identify the process. For example, this image, this port number might use to identify the browser process. And this port number, the port number 80 is used to identify the web server software running on the server. So a pair of socket identifies a connection, or a connection is actually, we can say that our software sees the connection as just a pair of a socket. Okay, then let's look at how the socket programming works. On the server side, we need to create the server socket and then waiting to accept the connection. Then at this time, our server is ready to serve the content. Our client will create a socket and create the connection to connect to the server. Then on the server side, we get the input stream of this socket to read the request content. On the client side, first we need to use the socket's output stream to write the content. Once on the server side, we processed the request, we can use the output stream to prepare the response and write it to the client. And at the client side, we use the socket's input stream to read the response. After that, both the server and the client side can close the socket. So let's look at the coding action. I'm using the Intelligent IDEA editor, and I have created the Maven projects. So let's create the server socket server. We put our code in the main method, and this is for demonstrate server socket programming. Let's say the first step is we need to create the server socket. So new server socket. and we need to give a port number. We will give 49s, because as here we say that the port number 0 to 1024 is preserved for the common services. So for our program, we'd better use the bigger one. And after we created the, okay, there's an exception, and we just, for demo purpose, we just make it throw at the method signature. Next, our next step is to make the server socket wait and accept the connection. So next is server socket dot accept, use the accept method. And this we call it a socket. After that, let's try to read the request sent by the client and try to write some response to the client. So let's get the input stream to read the input socket input, get input stream input, and the input, because they are transmitted through the network, so they are transmitted in the bytes. So we need a byte array to receive the bytes sent through the network. And then we input read. We read the bytes. We read the request into the byte. Let's look at this method documentation. It returns the total number of bytes read into the buffer. So we call this num. To help us to observe the behavior of our code, we print out the client's request. Client says we convert the bytes into the string 0, and the upper limit is the number of characters. Next we want, now here we finished reading the request from the client. Next we want to write some response. So the response, we need to write the response, we need to get the output stream, get output stream. We call out, and we just want to echo back what the client says. So we extract this into a variable. Message. Output string out, write, server echo. MSG this is a response, and we'd better store it in a variable. Response. To get our response sent through the network, we need to convert it into the byte. So we use the strings get bytes method. Let's look at the process again. After that, we need to close the socket or the resources. So actually, we need to close this socket. So let's put this code into the try and finally block. Finally. And let's move the declare statement here. We need to close the socket. So socket close. Okay. Next, let's try to see whether it works. Let's try to run this main method. It's not easy to observe, so let's add a message here. The server is ready. Oh, we should move up here. Right again. As you can see, the server is ready. And our program is blocked on this line. The server is waiting for the connection. So let's write our client. Socket client. This method purpose is to demonstrate the socket client programming. As you can see, the first step is to create the socket. This time it's not the server socket, but just the socket. New socket. New socket. And for the client side, client side, we need to specify the IP address and the port. So in this parameter, we put in the IP address localhost is .0.0.1, and the IP address the port is we used 4 nines. And okay, after that, construct socket. It seems we might. It's okay. Oh, the port cannot be the string, it should be the integer. Then next we come back. We want to request the server, send a request to the server, use the output stream and use the input stream to read the response. So let's get the output stream socket dot get output stream. How about we use the scanner? out. We use the scanner, new scanner, system to read the input from the console, SC scanner. Please input the message. We use a next line to get the message. So let's print some prompt. Please enter the message. We store it in the message, and then we use the output stream to send it through the network. Out.write petabytes. Okay. Next, we want to read the response. So we get the input stream socket, or get input stream input, and we also need to, just like the server code, we need the buffer and convert to the string. So we just copy over. Byte message is, we call this RISP, response services. Okay, change it to RESP. Okay, and we also need to, as we can see here, we need to close the socket. Otherwise, our system the socket will persist, and eventually it will occupy all the memories if too many or too much uncleaned resources left over. So we need to put this code into the try and finally, and the declaration, we can move it. Actually, we can move it out. So here we can socket close. Okay, our server is already up and running, and blocked on this line, waiting for the connections. Next, let's bring up our client and input some message. Run client. Enter the message and say, hello, socket. As you can see on the server side here, the client says, hello, socket. And we prefixed the message, the server echo, to the string the client sent. And on the client side here, we say the server says, server echo hello socket. Okay, that's the demonstration of the socket programming.